General. Yeah. Okay. See, my desire to interact with MIT, my association with MIT goes back a good 15 years. And I have a great sense of appreciation for Dr. Vishwanath Karad, who is actually trying to imbibe value-based education and trying to further expand the scope of the curriculum. You might wonder what a neurosurgeon is going to be talking about quantum physics to a group of students who are doing management. It has no connection whatsoever. But I'll probably change the thing a little bit. From your management perspective, I think there's one thing which I would like to share with you, which will be useful to you in your curriculum as well. And I'll talk a little about brain and emotions today. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay? Because when you are doing management, a large portion of management is all about actually dealing with people, actually dealing with situations, actually dealing with, depending on which faculty you go into, but you are largely dealing with management of people, interacting with people. And people management is very important, and I think you all must be having some orientation regarding, you all know what soft skills or emotional quotient, and have you heard of these terms?
Yes.
You tell me what is emotional quotient. Come, tell me. We share our ideas. What is emotional quotient?
It is an interactive session. You can just
we share our knowledge.
Yes.
So what is emotional quotient?
Ability of a person or an
Yes.
individual
Yes.
to properly deal with the emotions.
Okay. You know about IQ, right?
Intelligence quotient.
IQ is a measurement of intelligence. There is a thing called EQ also now, and what EQ talks is emotional quotient. Now, what has been found out is that if you look at people who are successful in whichever domain that they work in, of course intelligence is important, but you heard of the term nerds, no? Nerds are people who are really very intelligent and they are just sitting in the room and solving quadratic equations and stuff like that. So those are highly intelligent people, but they are not necessarily going to be translated as being very successful in life because they may not have the necessary soft skills or people skills, or emotional quotient may not be that high. So what is emotional quotient? Emotional quotient is the ability of a person to get along with people, to deal with emotions, to be able to deal with adversity. That's a very important thing. You know what adversity is? What is adversity? Adversity is difficulty. When you have a problem, when you might have to deal with failure at times in life, don't we all? Then you see at one end, you see people who are unfortunately just last week there was this incident of a girl having committed suicide in a medical college. She jumped over the floor. So that means that the person is not emotionally adjusted to the environment. Okay. So why I am going to talk about that is, as a neurosurgeon, as a person who understands the brain and who deals with the brain, I'll try to give you a brief idea about the role of the brain in the genesis of emotions, and more importantly, what is the physiology of emotions, what is the need of emotions, and how can we try to understand emotions better so that we have a better understanding not only in our professional lives, but also in our personal life. We have relationships issues. I think that's another very burning issue nowadays that we have. That relationships is a big problem, including with your parents, your siblings, with your maybe fiance or whatever. The relationship is a big issue. So dealing with all this. So coming to this whole essence of emotions, can anyone tell me what is the need of emotions? What is the need of emotions? If you look at the reptilian brain, that means if we see the species, origin of species, we start off with Pisces, then reptilia, then mammals. So that's how the animal kingdom is divided, right? So we talk about reptilian brain or the Piscean brain, that they don't have emotions per se. Reptilian brain, like the one which is seen in the crawling snakes and crocodiles, they don't have emotions, right? Even the Piscean, the fish don't have emotions. So emotions are not really necessary for our day-to-day living, if you agree with me. Is that right? They are living very well in the jungle. Mammals have emotions. So what, in your opinion, do you think is the role of emotions? Can anyone tell me? What is the importance and what is the need for emotions?
To have a good interaction with the people around us.
Okay, that's a good answer, to have an interaction with the people around you. Because one important thing is that man is a social animal, right? We talk of reptiles and fish. They're not necessarily social animals. They live in a group, but we as social animals, we have to interact with people. We have to deal with people, we communicate with each other. So one reason is yes, that we have to interact with people. That's why we need emotions. Any other reason for emotions that we need? Yeah.
To feel the things, like if
Yeah.
you don't have emotional, then we can't feel happiness.
Yes.
Other things.
Very good. So when we look at the positive side of emotions, we see the positive side includes happiness, joy, celebration. So that's the positive side of emotions when we say that we are happy. Okay. And then the other side of the spectrum, when the pendulum swings to the opposite side, we have sadness, joy, sadness, unhappiness, misery, suffering, and all that. So emotions, that is one important aspect. But you know, a more important aspect of emotions, if you talk of phylogenetics, you know what phylogenetics is? Phylogenetics is the study of development of the animal, of the organ. So phylogenetically, when we talk of, we say how has this man evolved to what he is? It is a study of evolution, right? So phylogenetically, what has been found out that emotions have a very important role to play in matters pertaining to which are mediated by the limbic system. Limbic system is the temporal lobe and the hypothalamus and those particular parts of the brain, which are, what role do they play? They play a very important role in feeding. They play a very important role in reproduction. That is in the as far as mating is concerned. So they have been closely woven into it. Another important role of emotion is rage or anger, which is fright. When we talk of fear, fear is an emotion, right? So fear is a very important emotion. So when we talk of when we are faced in an extreme situation, we have to deal with. Do you know these things? There's a fight, fright, or flight response. That's called the triple F response. So when I am faced in a very, very intimidating situation, I will have to take one of the three. I will either fight, I have to get scared and fight, or third is flight, will run away. Okay. So emotions have in some ways become interwoven with the survival of the species. As the species becomes more interactive and it becomes necessary to interact with more and more situations. So we need to have these emotions, which one part of the role of emotions is to protect the animal, for protection of the thing and for reproduction also, to ensure that the species survives. So that is a very primitive role of emotions if one were to look at it. But as we become evolved, as the brain becomes further more evolved, emotions start playing a greater role in our lives. Okay? They rise beyond the threshold of survival and reproduction and feeding. They have some greater role to play. So so emotions necessarily have, as we had mentioned, you had mentioned that there is a positive side to it and there is a negative side to it. Now, we all have experienced emotions, right? We've all experienced anger, we've all experienced extreme hatred, we've all experienced maybe jealousy, we've all experienced extreme fear, we've all experienced the entire spectrum. So, if we try to analyze and understand what is the role of emotions when we have to interact with people, you will realize that emotions can arise from two basic mechanisms. Okay. One is this is word work.
Yep.
So emotions, they can be up to 10. One is what are called as the instinctive. Okay. Instinctive. Okay. What is instinctive? If suppose someone blurts out a bad word or abuses
At the moment,
you react spontaneously without even thinking for a moment, instinctively. Or you hear a loud sound somewhere, you instinctively get scared. So these are instinctive emotions which work in a very, I would say, subconscious domain, right? We don't plan. You don't plan to get angry. Sometimes when someone does something, or someone trips you, or someone hits you, you don't think that now I should get angry, now I should do this. You instinctively, it is a spontaneous outburst of your emotion. So that is an instinctive aspect of emotions. The other type of emotions that are there are those we might call as deliberate. Okay, deliberate or deliberate, where I can deliberately choose. I have the choice. Here we don't have the choice, right? It's instinctive. Here I have a choice. Okay. That means I can choose. That is the thing. There is another third very interesting part which is called as a condition. Do you know what condition is? condition is?
Specific time.
See, condition means there was a very famous scientist by the name of Pavlov. What he did was he decided to feed a dog at a specific time, at 1 o'clock. Constantly for 3 weeks he fed the dog at 1 o'clock. Now what happens is the body, by virtue of this biological clock which exists, he found out that then he had one device by which he had one sensor put in the stomach of the dog, which would measure the gastric juices in the secretion. Now what he observed was that if he fed the dog continuously for 3 weeks, and initially he measured the gastric juice which was there at 1 o'clock, it was not there. It was only after the dog ate the food that the gastric juice came in, right? But after 3 weeks, at similar 1 o'clock, 3 weeks, what he found out was that at 12:30, even without the food being anywhere nearby, the gastric juice was secreted. So the body was getting conditioned to further take that experiment at a different level. What he did was, if he was feeding the dog at 1 o'clock, at 12:30 he would ring a bell. Okay? Ring the bell at 12:30, feed the dog at 1 o'clock. Ring the bell at 12:30, feed the dog at 1 o'clock. Now what happened was, when he analyzed the data, he found out that at 12:30 when he rang the bell also there was secretion of multiple juices in the stomach in anticipation of the meal that was coming. Okay? Yeah.
Salivation, right?
Salivation. There were two things. Salivation was also present and also gastric juices, because salivation is largely to do with the visual input of the food, but the stomach gastric, that is to a certain extent voluntary, but the gastric juice secretion is totally involuntary. It is totally under the domain, not under my voluntary control. So that will happen, but even the something that is involuntary, which is not under my control, the body, what he is trying to say is that there is a conditioning of the response. So the body becomes conditioned. So there are certain responses which are called as conditioned response, and you all understand Marathi?
Yes.
Okay. So Marathi मध्ये आपण स्वभाव म्हणतो माहिती आहे? आता आपण एखाद्याला म्हणतो स्वभाव रागीट आहे, एखाद्याला स्वभाव प्रेमळ आहे. So what is this? If you understand the difference, जो रागीट माणूस आहे, the stimulus required for making him angry is going to be much lesser than the stimulus required for a person who is not ragged. So that is what we talk of as a conditioning of the person. Okay? So there is a conditioned response, there is an instinctive response, and there is a deliberate response. Okay? Now I will ask you one question. Yes, you. When you are forced in a situation which is unpleasant, okay? It could be anything. It could be some unfortunate incident that happened, or something which is not a pleasant experience. Okay? You are going to react to it. We all react to, we are human beings, so we are going to react. So if I ask you that when you react to that particular unpleasant circumstance, which of the three domains will you react from? So you will react from a conditioned response. What about you? Conditioned. What about you? Conditioned. So let's all assume that instinctive is more animal-like, conditioned is a little further level, and the last is a deliberate response, right? Now, if we say that this is your reactions are based on the conditioned domain, which is very correct. I would also perhaps react in a conditioned domain, because conditioning means what happens is if you are repeatedly exposed to a particular stimulus, the body has its own adaptive mechanisms which they kick in, and then you start responding and reacting from the conditioning which happens. So some people's conditioning means the threshold for anger might be less, so he might, the provoking potential will be lesser. He might react less violently. Some persons whose reaction is not that, threshold is much lower, they react more violently. But now we all are on the same page that we most of the times react from the conditioned domain, right? Is that correct? We all agree on this? Okay. Now if I were to tell you that after you have responded to the situation which is unpleasant, okay, which was not a pleasant situation, we are again talking about unpleasant situation. How many times have you all felt that didn't react properly or I didn't respond properly. I'm talking about 1 or 2 hours after you have done this.
Maximum time.
How many times have you all felt?
Maximum time.
You all felt it? You all felt it? You all felt it? Which means that when your response is coming out from the conditioned domain, it is not the optimal response. Do you agree? Are we on the same page? So you yourself are saying that 9 out of 10 you feel that I should have reacted like this. You agree to this? So it means that whenever we respond to any situation, 2 things happen. One is we are responding by remaining in the domain of the conditioned response. Okay? And we also agree that it is the wrong response. Is this clear? Okay. So far so good. Any questions on this so far? There will be exceptions. I am talking about a very generic situation. Okay? We are not talking about specifics. There can be situations where it can be outside this, but by and large, as a ballpark measure, we say that we are reacting from what we might call as a conditioned response, right? Now, that mind which tells you that you didn't react properly, you're all said now that you should have reacted in that manner. You agree? You said that? That mind is there which tells you that you did something wrong, perhaps. To give you an example, your mother shouts at you that you came home beyond 10:30 at night, and you get angry and you slam the door and you say none of your business. You might say no, so what? Or you might not say none of your, so what? I mean, I have the right to come on. Once in a while I get clean, and you get angry and you slam the door. Common situation, right? After having done that, next day morning you wake up and you say, I think I should have done this. I think it was not right. Okay. So there is a time delay between we call it the conditioned response. If you draw it on a graph of time, okay, what you realize is that this is the degree of the response, intensity, and this is time. This is a simple graph. At 0 hours or at 10 or let's say 1 minute, then this is 10 minutes. This is half an hour, 1 hour, 5 hours, 24 hours. What you realize is that the intensity of the response, conditioned response, starts here, right? When you slam the door, and then it comes down, and then you, at this point, you start thinking, oh hell, I did something wrong. Is that correct? This might be about, let's say, 12 hours. We all agreed on this? Now, as an exercise, as a take-home message for all of you guys today, I am not a preacher, okay? I am also grappling with temper issues myself. I am as human, I am as vulnerable, as prone to losing my temper as all of you are. We are all the same. Please don't think I am on a pedestal or I am someone who is a learned. So no, we are all in the same page. I am also trying this, you also try to do this, and let this thought come in your head for some time. That if the response from this 10 minutes to this 12 hours, if this is compressed and you make it to 5 minutes, what will happen? The response that you will operate from will come in the deliberate zone. You agree with this? Because you compress this now. हा जो विचार तुमच्या इकडे 12 तासानंतर आला, हे जे टाइम इंटरवल आहे, when you realize that you made a mistake, this, if you compress it to 5 minutes, and if I were to tell you that instead of reacting at this 3-minute thing, you react at 15 minutes. Don't react at all. Don't react at all. What you are going to do is this 12 hour is going to get condensed into this 15 minutes. This part will come towards this side. Why? Because you've taken that much time, and you are letting that this interval of 3 to 15 is where the deliberate kicks in. You get it? You getting it? So if I take a call, and I'm doing this consciously, mind you, I'm doing this. am making a point. Like just a small example. Today we were climbing. We came and we were waiting at the reception at the lift. Yeah. And that lift, we were waiting. The other side lift doesn't stop on the fourth floor, so we had to wait for this lift. One girl was saying that she had to come down all the way because it didn't stop on the fourth floor. We were waiting over here. There was one lift was on the sixth floor, one on the fifth floor. We waited for 5 minutes. It came down. We were at the ground floor. It came down on the first floor. We all geared up. I said, okay, let's get ready. Now the lift will come to ground floor. And from first floor, it come again. Yeah, I was annoyed. I said, so my first reaction was, what the hell? But I said, no, let me not. Let's work in the deliberate. Let's work in this time zone. Let's not react at all. I waited for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and unfortunately, I met Mrs. Dave, right? Unfortunately, I said, let's walk up. So we walked up the first station. She has a bit of a spine problem. I'm sorry, ma'am.
No, it's okay.
But what essentially that does is, when the time moment goes, that moment has passed, and now we can both laugh at it. But at that point, I could have thrown a typical me if I were there. I would say, what the hell? I don't agree with what Nancy did. Who's operating the lift? How can she do this? I can do all that kind of, anger and all that stuff. But I choose not to. Because, why did I not? Can I tell you? Because I choose to operate from the deliberate zone. I choose that how I will respond in the situation. I will not work in the instinctive zone. I will not work in the conditioned zone also. My conditioned zone, friends, I must tell you, you will not believe it. I am a surgeon, I have thrown an instrument when one nurse was assisting me for doing an aneurysm. I was flipping the aneurysm, she gave me the wrong instrument. I threw that damn instrument. And how would I, what nonsense I said I will. That's how I am. That's my temper. I know I am dealing with temper. But if I am intelligent, if I am smart enough, and if I am willing to learn, I can shift my reactions from the instinctive and the conditioned to the deliberate zone. Okay? Now this will make a lot of sense to you all. The person who can operate from the deliberate zone will have a higher EQ. We can come back to the EQ, right?
Yes.
You get the point? So the person, so if our objective is to improve our EQ, you are going to be in the domain of management. Okay? You're going to deal with people, you're going to deal with subordinates who are going to mess up, you're going to deal with bosses who are going to be unfair, you're going to be faced with very mitigating circumstances, situations which are very unpleasant. So you have the, if you want to operate in the instinctive or the conditioned zones, you can do it, but it will not be the best thing to do for you all. The best thing for what you all are going to do is to try hard to operate from the deliberate zone. Okay? Is that clear? So now you will understand one thing, that if we are intelligent, if we think a little, God has given us grace cells. If we analyze our own actions and if we try to see that how can I be better and how can my responses be better, then one can probably understand that this makes sense. I can let some time go. I'll only request all of you to do one simple thing. At any provocation that you face of any sort, if you let, you know the example of alcohol, we all drink alcohol, right? Some of them no, even I don't drink alcohol, I'm actually not drinking. But I'll tell you one very interesting thing. Alcohol is prepared by a system called as distillation.
Yes.
You know distillation?
Yes.
At least you know the theory behind alcohol. Okay? So what they do is, they have a flask like this, and this is the fire over here. Okay? And they put the raw alcohol, whatever is over here, and they heat the fire here, and then this condenses and then this is distilled into this. This is the process of distillation, right?
Yes.
Now remember one thing, the process of making alcohol, the lower alcohols, when they evaporate faster. So like CH3OH, this is methyl alcohol. This distills fastest and comes here. Then C2H5OH is ethyl alcohol. Then C3H7OH is butyl alcohol. So there are all the different alcohols that get accumulated into this. Now, why do you drink? Why do people prefer to drink Scotch whiskey? Huh? I'll tell you why. People prefer to drink Scotch whiskey because it has the least amount of impure alcohols.
Purity.
So, more the delay is there, the impure alcohols evaporate and only the finest quality of alcohol remains. So, the same logic goes by. As you let time go by, as you let more and more time go by between your stimulus and your reaction, the reaction is going to be that much more purer. It's going to be more deliberate. It's going to be much more efficient. It's going to be much more pure. Okay? So, the take-home message for all of you guys today is, if you understand this whole thing, that whenever you are going to react to any situation, you are going to go in the domain of working from the deliberate, what I told you about. Yeah, you don't work in the conditioned response. You don't work in the instinctive response. You react from the deliberate response. And to conclude this whole thing, I just like to share one very, I think most simple.
Yes, you have time, sir.
Okay. I don't want to bore you out too much because this much is, I think, enough for you all to get an idea. Because remember one thing, I always tell myself this: chemicals react, humans respond. Okay. You have to take a call whether you are a chemical or a human being. And chemicals are ones where if I put a drop of sulfuric acid in water, there is going to be an explosion. There is no question. There is no choice, and it is at that instant, and that's done. It is a universal law of nature. So, do you want to end up being a chemical? Where I know, and you know the other sad part of being so volatile in your emotions is you become very predictable. You become very predictable. I know me. Suppose I know you, this guy sitting here, my friend. What's your name? Himanshu. If I know कि हिमांशु को मैंने उसके दाढ़ी के बारे में बोला ना तो दिमाग उसको समझ जाता है. I know. So eventually what happens is I have the remote control to this guy. I have to control this guy. थोड़ा एक बार क्या है यार दाढ़ी बराबर दिख रहा है तो I know he is going to get pissed off and he is going to get mad. So actually when you have volatility in your reactions, you are actually effectively going to make us very predictable. मालूम है कि इसको ये बोला तो ये ऐसे करेगा. So remember, we are not chemicals. And if the distance between being a chemical and a human being is working in that deliberate zone. Yeah. Okay. So let's all try to tell ourselves this, okay, and remind ourselves this, that if you want to be good management students, if you want to be good managers, if you want to be excelling in your chosen field, okay, then you have to not be a chemical. You have to be a highly evolved human brain that we have, which can choose to function from the domain of the deliberate. The deliberate is the zone and the domain which entitles you, empowers you. It empowers you to take the decision that you choose to, and it does not force any response on you. Yeah? And that is the highest respect that you can give yourself. Why do you feel irritated or why do you feel upset when you feel like you responded wrongly? Because you say, "Arey, kya kiya maine yaar? Why did I do this?" So you start cursing yourself, right? You start cursing yourself. Why did I do this? So if you want to respect yourself, you want to love yourself, and if you want to really be a better human being, then you have the power of choice, provided you are willing to exercise that power of choice. Is that correct? So, as a matter of, I would say, as a matter of being intelligent and as a matter of really being thinking individuals, I would implore all of you all, please, whenever you are responding and reacting to any situation, please try to function from the deliberate zone and try to kill the instinctive and the conditioned responses. Can you do that? Now, next time, I don't know when our next lecture is going to be scheduled, but the next time, can I ask you all to do one thing?
Yes.
I want you to just keep a small note of it, either on your notes in your mobile or wherever, where 3 times you observe yourself after having reacted instinctively, or from in a conditioned response. And give me make a note of 3 times when you control yourself and you work from the deliberate zone. Can you do that for me? So next time when we have a lecture,
Yes.
I would like to hear a feedback from you. Okay?
Yes.
I hope you all like the lecture and you all
Really
interested.
interesting. Really interesting.
Any questions?
From lower level of consciousness to higher level of consciousness.
And you know, actually, this lecture was talking about consciousness and spirituality. 1 minute, huh?
Last, please. Please.
When we are talking about spirituality and consciousness and all these things, you know, one of the greatest things about being spiritual or having peace, which is one of the subjects that we all have got, is most of the, not only individuals, but the countries, religions, the capitalist forces, they all are operating from the instinctive and conditioned domains, unfortunately. No one's working in a deliberate domain. Yeah? So this has correlations in wider reference in spirituality, in politics, in management. It has ramifications everywhere. Okay? So please try to make use of this information and this insight that I provided to you all. That's all I can do. I don't teach, but I think I can provide you all insights into this. Okay?
Very good.
Thank you so much.
One thing